Hi, my name is Keri Barnum. I am the Executive Director for New Shelves Books, and we are here for Free Advice Friday, the hour every Friday where we get together, talk about book marketing, publishing, and all the things along the way. Today, we've got quite a few questions that are emailed in that we're going to jump in. And then, of course, we always accept questions live. And if you would like to join us live on Zoom, 10 a.m. Eastern every Friday, just go to newshelves.com/FAF. It is completely free. You can register and join us when you'd like. And we also, of course, have our replays go up on YouTube, which is youtube.com/newshelvesbooks. So you can watch the replays there if you can't join us live. So we've got questions running the gamut this week, really a lot of different questions from barcodes to KDP to republishing. So I am just going to pick one at random and start. All right, Wendy, this is your question. You had been sent an email, like a promotional email about advertising audiobooks, and it looks like it came from Contentmo. And you had asked me whether or not it was something worth doing. So I looked a little bit more into that, Wendy, and let me just pull it up so we can share for everyone else to see. Contentmo, what it looks like to me is simply somewhere where you can advertise your books and do ads. So it's not so much a discount promotion. It's not, from what I've seen, I could be wrong. But really, Contentmo, what it looks like to me is they're simply offering to run author promotions and to post to social media about your different books and formats. So is it worth it? I don't know. I've neither heard about nor used Contentmo, so I could not speak to that. If they reached out to you without you connecting with them first, I'm always a little bit wary. Definitely do your due diligence and do a couple of searches. But as far as this, if you're getting emails from Contentmo, it is not chirp. It is not an actual deal being offered to you. This is someone offering to promote your book for pay. So it's not through Kindle, it's not through KDP or Findaway Voices or anything like that. It's just someone running a promotion for ads, and they're doing social media ads is what it looks like. So hopefully that helps clarify a little bit. And as always, you guys, my typical rule of thumb is when people say, is something worth it? Have you heard of them? Go to our good friend Google, the Better Business Bureau, and Google. I always search there. But also, if someone's emailing you and you didn't first make a connection with them, if you didn't sign up for their mailing list, if you didn't do a webinar with them, if you didn't meet them at a conference somewhere, then always proceed with caution. People reaching out to you when you didn't sign up for their newsletter list is usually one of just the red flags for me personally, and when people ask me those questions. All right, the next question is from Lynn, and I think I saw you on here, Lynn. In Lynn's book, let's see, I'm going to read the question. My book is 9 years old, and I have incrementally revised it over the years when I make small changes, not near the 25% for a revised edition. But I noticed a book that came out about 2 years ago where the author is trying to rebrand her book for summer reading. She has changed the date and called it a reprint. Can I do this too? How does that work? Yes. So the rules are actually pretty loose on this. As far as if you're going to call it a revised edition, then typically you're expected to make a 25 to 40% change. That could include the cover, the content, adding content, taking away content, putting in a forward. That's if you are going to brand that book as a revised edition. However, at any time, really, you can put out a second edition or a reprint edition. And that simply means that there are changes from the first edition. You're getting a new ISBN, and you are essentially republishing with a new ISBN, maybe a freshened up cover. I've seen it run the gamut from like a brand new cover and edited content to just refreshing the cover, or just, updating the interior and things like that. And that's simply a second edition. And you can do that anytime. I've seen people do the 6 months out, and I've seen them do it 9 years out. Now, it's typically something that I wouldn't do willy-nilly. If you're going to do it, I'd either do it for a purpose, like, hey, I had a publisher, I got my rights back, and now I'm doing a second edition under my own imprint. Or, Lynn, as you said, you've actually made changes over the years. So what you could do is, you are coming up on your 10th anniversary. So you could do a 10th anniversary edition where you change it up, make sure you update it, and kind of zhuzh it up a little bit. Maybe do a cover that's got a little few updates on it, or a sticker on it, or something like that that says 10th edition. So you could do that, and or I'm sorry, 10-year anniversary edition. You could do that, and you would simply republish the book with a new ISBN. The old book, the old ISBN actually comes down and stops being printed. Now, it lives in infamy. People can always look up that old edition by the ISBN. All your reviews can actually track over to your new book on Amazon, but it's not printed anymore because you take down those print on demand files. Or if you're doing a print run, if you're doing offset print, then you simply switch to the new book in the new edition when you're ready for your print run. So that is something you can do. Again, this is not something I would do every month to try to get a rise out of people. Either do it because you have a real reason, like you are completely rebranding your book and it needs a new edition. Or if it's been quite a few years and you've added or updated content, something like that would be great. Or if you're moving from one publisher to another. Those are typically the rules of thumb of why you would do a second edition. An updated or revised edition, again, needs more content, or changed content. Sometimes you take out and put in, so it's not necessarily a bigger or shorter book. So hopefully that makes sense. It's not hard to do. It's actually fairly easy, but I think it can be great to breathe new life into a book and to give you a new pub date, but don't abuse it. Don't make it something that becomes a shtick to get people to buy your book because it's new. That's what I would, steer clear of. All right. Any suggestions for promoting a book on Prime days? Yes and no. So on Prime days, I have seen people actually run just discount ebook promotions and just promote it out that way. Put it on social media with a, jumping on the Prime Day bandwagon, doing a discount for Prime Day or something like that. As far as actually promoting your books on Amazon on Prime days, if you're running ads, keep at them. Would I do any special ads or up my ad spend for Prime days? Guys, the answer is no. Let me tell you why. Because people shopping on Prime days typically are not shopping for books. They're shopping for shipped products. They're shopping for big ticket items and that kind of thing. So the people that you're going to be bidding against, especially if your keywords have, like if you have a self-help book or something that could have keywords that could be used for, I don't know, a treadmill or something like that, you are going to be bidding against people whose profit margin is so much bigger than yours. It's nothing for them to pay $3 per click, because if they sell that treadmill for $1,000 or $600, their profit margin's bigger. And you as an author and as a publisher will not have that profit margin. So I know you all have probably been getting emails from Amazon, like get your ads ready for Prime Day and all sorts of things like that. Know that those go out to anyone that has an Amazon advertising account. It's not specifically for authors or publishers or books. And know that that is not the best place to spend your money. If you want to do your own personal discount days, run it in newsletters, put it on social media, and kind of tie it into Prime days, I think that could be savvy marketing. People are already thinking about it. But I wouldn't necessarily dump a lot of money or effort into actual Prime days on Amazon, because the competition will be fierce and you with your margins in books will simply not be able to keep up, and you probably won't make as many sales. People will be looking again for big ticket items. So same thing kind of like on Black Friday. People are looking for TVs. They're looking for air fryers. They're looking for AirPods, not so much for books. So that's kind of my opinion on it. Certainly everyone can have their own opinions and you may hear other advice, but that's my personal advice after working and watching Prime Days with books specifically for quite a few years. See, I am thinking of using another pen name next year for a series because it sounds good and my name now has few, if any, reviews. I look bad, maybe I am bad, but when I reread my material, I still like it. I do believe in myself. I'm glad that you believe in yourself, Kim. Um, Pen names can be great. Pen names can be a way for a fresh start, certainly if you're moving into another genre. And I think it's really important when we're looking at our books and whether they're successful or not. Sometimes you just have to keep writing. I heard somewhere that the average author, their name doesn't really pick up, their popularity doesn't pick up until around their 10th book on average. Of course, people come out with their debut, thriller that's amazing, but on average, popularity picks up around your 10th book. So I think number one, it's really important that you do make sure that you're honing your craft, that you keep writing, that you invest in editors and the correct marketing, and that when you hire professionals, that you listen to them, you listen to their advice, and keep writing. And if a new pen name makes sense because it works for you or you're moving genres or something like that, go for it. But be wary of republishing and republishing and republishing the same books. If it didn't take off the first time, it doesn't mean you keep republishing. It means come out with something new. Maybe you'll find a new audience that you didn't have before. And when that series takes off, they'll go back and read your older books. But at some point we have to say, okay, I published or I put out that old book. I did with it what I could. Now what's next? What's new? And that goes for indie authors, traditional authors. There just comes a time where you need something new and you never know what'll happen with your backlist down the road. All right, I'm getting ready to launch my second children's book. What are some suggestions to launch? Kindle Countdown deal, free Booksy, etc. So for a children's book, I think that you have lots of opportunities. I think reaching out to mom groups, parents, teachers, librarians, they very often are excited about children's books. This is one of those times when having a street team or something like that, people who are ready and willing to review and interact with your children's book is smart. I think doing videos of crafts that tie into your book is so smart because moms and educators and babysitters will come for the craft because they're looking for things for their kids to do this summer and they will stay for the book. So I think that's something that you can definitely do. I know this is your second children's book and I think it might be in a series. And if so, don't forget to start promoting your first book more. Use that as leverage. Maybe do giveaways with that one. Doing discount ebook deals can be a good way to get some lift, but keep in mind that not many people are buying children's picture books on ebook. It's just not how we're typically reading to kids. So you may get some lift, but I wouldn't invest too much in that as a children's book author. I think you'll go further with social media, even with sending copy, find someone on TikTok who's a mom or who is a parent and who might be willing to do that and ask them if they take a copy of your book. Finding people on Facebook, mom groups on Facebook, finding teachers, that's the kind of thing social media will take you further as a children's book author. Definitely library readings and signings, craft times, that kind of thing would be smart. Hopefully you've been building your newsletter and your readership email list so you have a warm market to reach out to. So don't forget that. And then work on those reviews quickly. You need to make sure that you get reviews in hand quickly so you can start running ads. And if it's a series that really ties into each other, your ads still pretty much focus on the first book. Another thing here is make sure on the book one description, on KDP, on Amazon, that you add either a footnote that says, once you read this book, be sure to check out book 2, and you give the title. or make sure that you brand it as a series. You can add series details to books on Amazon, and you want to make sure that you do that so that you so that people know it's a series and they can easily find you. So make sure you do that and talk about it being a series right in there on your description, because kids like series, they like to follow a character. So good luck. I'm excited for you. I know your first book was fabulous. So, all right. For a new, not widely read author, what is a reasonable bid for Amazon ad clicks? John, usually I recommend that if you're starting for an ad bid, you start anywhere between 35 and 45 cents. And that is kind of, you may start on the higher end and dial back as you go, but that's typically where I start. If you're in a really competitive genre, something where all of the clicks are being suggested at $1 or more, I would start around 50 cents, but typically you want to start around 35 cents to 45 cents, simply because, hey, that's a good way to get started and see what's moving. Always, we want to move our spend down, because the less we spend, the more money we make. So you want to bring that down, but sometimes you have to start a little bit higher simply to start getting that data quicker. And so you can start changing and adjusting your ads and your keywords. So that's certainly something to consider. And also important to note, not important, but also letting you guys know, Amazon, Brian Cohen's Amazon ad challenge. Sorry, I'm struggling. Brian Cohen's Amazon ad challenge is starting. He started to kind of ramp up the Facebook group this week, and he will be actually starting on the 13th. So if you're looking for a free way to learn more about Amazon ads, I highly recommend this course. It's a great information to get into the Facebook group where you can get feedback and things like that. Is fabulous. Highly recommend, whether you're indie or traditional, just to learn more about how ads and Amazon algorithms work. And they also talk about like your book copy and your book cover and all sorts of things. So I highly recommend that you join that. It's something you can kind of do. It's a video ads along the way. So I think it's a ton to learn. I think it's fantastic. And I've actually been playing around. You guys let me know if you're interested. I've been playing around with the idea of, for the Amazon ad challenge for Brian Cohen, one of the things you have to do is you have to find a list of keywords. You can do keyword ads. And I know a lot of authors struggle with that. There are tools like Publishers Rocket, the Data Scraper. There are tools both paid and free, but I know some authors are like, I don't have the time, or I'm already struggling to learn Amazon ads, and I don't, or I can't find keywords. I am just struggling. Well, New Shelves not only has quite a few paid services for keyword lists like Publisher Rocket and others, but I do this a lot. My assistant does this a lot. So I've been tossing around the idea of actually doing a short, quick promo where we sell a keyword list, where you give us a couple of comps and then we go and pull a keyword list for you for your ads. So you can use it both during the Amazon ad challenge and in the future. So let me know if you guys are interested in that. Okay, you guys would use it. My niece is working for me this summer. She's kind of doing it, and I've been working with her on that. She's like, these are so fun, Aunt Keri. Can we do more? And I was like, well, let's see. Okay, well, watch your emails. I'll let you guys know in the Facebook group. If I do that, it would be something again where we take a couple of comps and just give you keyword lists, not running ads for you, but keyword lists. And it's a quick way to kind of get a couple hundred keywords so you can start using them based on your comps. Because the ad challenge is awesome, you guys, but it's so much information and it can be a little overwhelming. So I thought this might be something that would take some pressure off y'all, but also give my niece something to do to keep her out of trouble. So I will follow up with that. Watch your email and the Facebook group, because I'll let you know if or when I run that. All right. Now off of that bunny trail, let's see. All right. Thanks so much. Jessica's asking, Amy mentioned there are subgenres of romantic comedy. Where might an author go to find out what these subgenres are? Besides looking at the Kindle stores, Amazon top 100. So I would say if you're looking for subgenres, number one, Amazon is one of the best places to look, but also go look at the top trending romance books on Barnes and Noble, on USA Today, on New York Times, and look for those that are in rom-com and then look for the subgenres. The other place to look is in romance reader groups. You will find trending things like sports rom-com or different things like that. See what people are talking about, what they're buying. And also author groups are another great way to do that. So I think those are all fantastic options. But really it's getting your hands in there, getting in with your readers and just seeing what's trending, what's selling, and what's viable. What is trending on the Kindle Unlimited list if you're doing Kindle Unlimited? What's trending on the sales list if you are actually doing straight sales with no Kindle Unlimited? And that is the best way. That and readership are the best ways to find those subgenres and what's selling and what's popular, the tropes, and so on and so forth. All right, let's see. Yes, Caroline, those are keywords for Amazon ads through KDP. Yep. Do you recommend to upload the book as an ebook on KDP and paper formats on Ingram? So I personally recommend that you do your ebook on, your ebook goes to KDP. And if you're not doing Kindle Unlimited, if you're going wide, then I recommend you use Draft to Digital for your ebook. And then I recommend that you take your paperback and you upload to both KDP for Amazon print copies and Ingram Spark for the Ingram print copies. So I recommend that you do them both. And there is, if you go to the New Shelves YouTube channel, if you go to New Shelves Books on YouTube, I have a video that is all about distribution, and it's actually like a 6-minute video that explains where I upload and how. So that might be a good resource for you, but I recommend that you use both KDP and Ingram Spark for your print copies because that will allow you to make more money directly on Amazon and also go to Ingram Spark for your wholesale options. And your ebook, again, depends on if you're exclusive to Amazon or not. All right. Question here. What's the process for an author to get his or her books into an airport or a series of airports without going through their procurement process? Well, there is no way. You have to go through their process. That's kind of how it works. You need to find the airport stores like Hudson News and the other newsstands. You need to find them and you need to either reach out directly to the buyers at individual stores or the regional buyers. I will say that these places buy their books from wholesalers. One is Ingram, but there are other wholesalers that they may go through for their books. Typically, those other wholesalers are more based on products, not books. So it's something you'd really have to research and go specifically to see if those wholesalers take books. And then again, you have to go through their managers. You have to go through their buyers. You have to go that way. Now you can go to individual stores and ask the buyers at individual stores, and sometimes they'll put you up the chain and give you a good word. But typically there are regional buyers that are controlling that. And airport stores is something. I love you guys today because everything we're talking about, we have resources already. We do have a blog on the New Shelves website where I actually talked to an airport store book buyer, and I got to answer a lot of these questions about how you can go through and how you can manage to get your book into airport stores. So I'm going to drop that in the chat if you're here. And then if you aren't, just go to the New Shelves blog and search airport, you'll find it. But I think what's important about airport stores is what trends there is women's fiction or romance in the summer. Mysteries and thrillers are always a popular buy. And then big name New York Times bestsellers, whether it be fiction or nonfiction. And then aside from that, we see a lot of regional fiction. So if you're in the Georgia airport, you might actually find a nonfiction book about historical sites in Georgia, because they assume if you're coming through the airport, you might be interested in that. But there's not, there's not a way to bypass their procurement process or to bypass their buyers. They're there for a reason, because they're the buyers. Now you can start a little bit lower and work your way up the chain in some cases, but you've got to go through the buyers because that's how they buy. Let's see. What question should I ask myself to know whether adding my ebook to Google Play is a good idea? The audiobook is already there. So if you're looking at Google Play, I think what you really want to ask is, how does it serve you and does it serve you? It's another platform that you have to upload to directly. Their terms are a little bit different than, let's say, Kindle or Draft to Digital, something like that. So you have to know that as well. It doesn't make you available to Google, which again is more on the Android side, like Android phones and things like that is where you'd see it more. So you have to decide whether the terms are agreeable to you, if it serves you, and certainly is your book exclusive through Kindle, because if so, it just takes it off the table. If not, if you're willing to do the work, look at the terms and see if it meets your goals. If it does, go ahead and go for it. Just make sure that you realize that anytime you're doing an ebook discount, a BookBub, anything like that, that you do go ahead and you discount Google Play as well. Speaking of BookBub, I got an email today that someone who was on here last time we talked about BookBub and we talked about submissions. They did it. They did exactly as we talked about, and they got a BookBub deal. So I'm so excited for John who did that, and thank you for sending me that great news. It's always exciting to hear when things we do here on Free Advice Friday actually play out and you have success stories. It's a really fun thing. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. And by the way, that is a like literary historical romance. So all genres can definitely get into BookBub. Let me see. I know we've got more emails here. Ooh, a couple more. All right, Kat, you had a question about barcodes. I just realized that I printed a barcode and price on the cover of the print editions of earlier books. These prices are listed in myidentifiers.com, which is the Bowker website, along with the ISBNs for print and ebooks, and on the copyright page of both editions. I want to change these prices. Do I have to obtain new ISBNs for print and ebook formats? Do I have to update the listing on the copyright pages? If I do not place the barcode on the book covers, am I free to charge prices for promotional purposes? Thank you in advance. All right, Kat, so that's a couple questions. So let's unpack this one. First things first, I do recommend that you use a priced barcode, especially when you're uploading to Ingram Spark, because Ingram Spark is for the wholesale trade. This is for retailers, bookstores, libraries, and I strongly recommend that you do put your price barcode on that cover. If you want to get into airport stores, if you want to get into bookstores, many of them require that you have a price barcode. So I do recommend it. But if you change your price, you must change your price barcode along with your price. So keep that in mind. Now, a price promotion depends on what you mean. Are you dropping it down on Amazon for a price promotion? Or are you doing something where you're just running it from your website for a discount price? Because you can run a discount from your website any old time. But if you're dropping your price down on Amazon or Ingram or something like that, that's different. That's when you actually have to update your price barcode, because you're changing the actual list price. So that's something to consider. And as far as my identifiers, you can edit everything on my identifier. So if you've changed the price for ebook or paperback or anything along the way, go into my identifiers and simply edit the information as sooner rather than later, update it out and save it, and that will actually upload to the Bowker system. You do not need a new ISBN to change out your price. That's not something that tracks. So Keep your ISBN, change your price wherever need be. If you're changing on the print edition, make sure that you do change your price barcode for Ingram Spark if you're using one. As far as your copyright page, it sounds like I'm a little confused by the wording because I'm not sure if the copyright page has the price for both editions or simply the ISBN. If you just have the ISBN for both editions, you're golden. Don't change a thing. If you have the price for each edition listed on the copyright page and you're changing the price, I just recommend that you update your copyright page, take the price out, and then re-upload your files. So the short answer here is that you are just going to update your price everywhere, update your files if need be. But you don't need a new ISBN. This is not a new edition or anything like that. It's simply a price change that needs to be updated mostly in the back end on your metadata. So, how long should I wait after querying an agent to follow up if I haven't heard from them? Eileen, according to Amy Collins, you should wait around the 60-day mark. You should wait at least 60 days or 4 to 6 weeks. Or I'm sorry, 60 days or 6 weeks before you even think about pinging them back, unless they said, I'll get back to you on July 1st, and now it's the 8th, I'd still give them 2 weeks probably. But around 60 days is about the timeline that you should wait to follow up with an agent. Let's see. Yay, Cheryl Singh. And I knew this because I was stalking her book with her, but Cheryl did an international book club on her nonfiction book. And she made it to bestseller lists on Amazon for UK, Australia, and Canada, which is amazing. I'm glad that you did that. And I'm so proud and excited for you. Does it matter what day of the week you launch? Typically in traditional publishing, launch days on Tuesdays. It's always on Tuesdays. Now, as an indie author, you have some flexibility if you decide not to do that. I know some indies who will follow that traditional path because they want to feel like a traditional book and publisher, but I know indies who purposely will launch on different days so that they don't have the competition of the traditional market. They will purposely typically when I see that, when people don't go for Tuesday, I typically see launches on Thursdays or Saturdays. Or if there's a particular day, like a historic day that ties into your book, then you could launch it then. Or if there is some date with meaning where you're going to do promo or press releases because it's International Women's Day or something like that, then you may do it there. But traditionally it's Tuesday for your launch day. All right, back to email because I know we had a couple more. All right, and Kate has her answer, but I'll answer anyway. If you accidentally on KDP, if you hit publish for your paperback, knowing that there is no pre-order through KDP for a paperback, when you hit publish for a KDP book in print, it goes live on Amazon. Kate had a question and asked, is there anything you can do if you accidentally hit the publish button on KDP before you're actually ready to launch your book? You can go and hit the unpublished button on the paperback, which will take it off the market, but it will then show as out of stock. So your listing essentially will still be there. It will simply show as out of stock because it's no longer available to be printed. So the listing never ever goes away on Amazon, not for any book, old edition, new edition, accidental pub. It's all there forever and ever. Amen. We can find it with your ISBN. However, you can pull it from being readily available and printed by unpublishing that printed book. But it's kind of already out there. It is something that will show up and have a listing. So depends on your goals and if that makes sense for you, or if it doesn't make sense. It just kind of depends on you there. So something to consider if that is you, and if that happens, you can either run with it and do an early launch, or you can unlist it and just kind of stay quiet about it, not give anyone the link until you're closer to your pub date. Let's see, Caroline, when querying, how many agents is a good idea? Caroline, you query as many agents as you think are a good fit for your project. There is no maximum. If it's a good fit, now important, make sure it's an agent who's looking for your type of book, that you are a good fit, that they're a good fit for you, but then query. It's a little bit like winning the lottery. Your odds aren't super in your favor, so you've got to make sure that you query a bunch of people. At minimum, I'd say you need to query at least 50 agents if you hope to have even a small percentage respond to you. So as many are as a good fit, but 50 would kind of be like, wow, you pitched, but not even that many. So that's what I would keep in mind. All right, let's see. And Keri is saying that they do a Tuesday launch for release day, but hold off on the launch, so the actual fanfare, the social media post and everything, until Friday, because it gives the time for the listing to marinate. I love it. So if you would like to marinate your listing, if you'd really like to get it all flavorful and juicy, then you can wait until Friday until you launch. And I totally had steak last night, and I'm just now thinking of steak. Thank you, Tara. All right. How do we find out which agent represents our comp authors? So you can search. You can actually search that author name with the word agent. So you could say, who's, I don't know, Diana Gabaldon agent, and sometimes it'll come up. Now you can also kind of go, and a lot of times if you go to certain agents' websites, so if you have an agent that you kind of think is a good fit, if you go to their website, most of the time they list their clients. Why? Because it's the proof of who they are and that they rock at their job. So that's another way to find them. And Query Tracker is a great way to find agents in your genre who are accepting queries at the moment, because you can actually search by different genres and that kind of thing. So good old Google search, always our friend, but also Query Tracker, and then searching your comp with the agent, agent, and then also going to agents that you think would be awesome and going and see if they list or have different authors or book titles on their resume, so to speak, is a good way to find them as well. Yes, that's a good point, Valerie. The book acknowledgement section is often also a great way to find their agent, editor, etc. Because even if they're not listed on the copyright page or anything like that, many times they've got great relationships and they will think their agent and all sorts of people in their acknowledgements, which is always a fun thing. That's kind of what the acknowledgements are for. I saw a book on Amazon, not ready for sale till August. What's that about? That's just a pre-sale share, and that may be an ebook that's set up directly through KDP for a pre-sale, or it may be a print pre-order done through Ingram Spark or a traditional house. So just a pre-sale, pretty common there. All right, Valerie, I pitched an article a week ago to Miss Magazine that is timely and thus somewhat time sensitive. I have several other magazines in mind to pitch, but am not finding much guidance on simultaneous submissions in this realm. Your thoughts? So what I would do, excuse me, if you had pitched this article and it is time sensitive, I would follow up and say, I wanted to make sure, I don't want to bother you, but I didn't want this to slip through the cracks. So I wanted to just follow up and see if you're interested. I will begin submitting to other outlets beginning, and give them like 48 hours. Beginning Monday, July, I don't know, what's that, you guys? The whatever that day is. Not that it really matters for this opportunity. All right, for Monday the 11th. So that's how I would do. If it's been a couple days, I just wanted to follow up with you. Don't want to bother you, but don't want to slip through the cracks, and let you know that I am still very excited for the opportunity and potential of you taking on this article. However, if I do not hear from you, I will begin pitching to other outlets Monday, July 11th, and kind of give them that. Since it is Friday, I'd probably push it to Tuesday, simply because it's the weekend, but that's up to you. And then what I would do for any future submissions is, as you pitch it, I would have a line that says, this is a multiple submission article. So if you're interested, please let me know as soon as possible. And as I do that, what I would do is I would submit to your top 3 to 4 each time. So submit to your top 3 to 4, give them 3 or 4 days to respond. If no one does, go down to your next top 3 or 4. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to submit to 100 places and have kind of your top tier and your middle and your lower tier and get an immediate yes from your lower tier. And then you have your top tier respond, within 2 days and not an hour. And then you miss that opportunity. So that's how I would personally handle it. All right, so we've got that question done. I think we have one more question here. Alex, I told you I got your email, and I did. All right, is it possible to publish a self-published book with another publisher and a different cover for a different audience? I'm thinking of Scholastic. So sometimes you will see this kind of falls under that different edition heading. Sometimes you will see where like Scholastic will publish a book and it's a Scholastic edition. Now the publisher or the author is still running their copy elsewhere, and that's okay. It all depends on the contracts. There are times where you will see even different publishers in different countries. That's fairly common, or different languages. There are times where it's a special edition just for Scholastic and they kind of take it on. So there are different opportunities like that. I will say typically publishers in the same country, so US publishers typically do not want to compete with Scholastic, or they want in on the deal and they want part of the royalties. If you're a self-published author, you are the publisher, so you kind of can make that decision. However, at the same token, Scholastic or other people typically don't want to share their books with other people. They want to sell and get all the money. So they don't typically want to publish a book that's already been published. Now, has it been done? Can it be done? Absolutely. Absolutely. However, it's not so much standard. So yes, it can be done. It depends on your contracts, depends on the publisher, it depends on who you're pitching. But it's not commonly done for a book that's already out in the same country, in the same language. Share, how far before the launch should you post the book for sale on Amazon and Ingram? Well, that depends on you. It depends on your plans for a book launch and a pre-order. So I always say pre-order can be great if there is a reason for that pre-order. If you are going to be pushing sales there, if it's a second book in a series, if you know that you've got promotions coming up before your launch, that is when you would want to do a pre-order. Typically pre-order for your ebook on Amazon, and then your paperback would go through Ingram. How soon in advance? Well, if you are trying for professional reviews, if you're trying for Kirkus and Publishers Weekly and all of those, I recommend that you have that pre-order set up before you pitch your reviews. And that means typically around 4 to 6 months in advance. So you have that pre-order for a long time, but you've got to have a reason for it. If you're not going to drive traffic, if you're not using it to kind of leverage publicity or reviews or things like that, then it's just languishing for no reason. So that's kind of my take on it. It's what I typically recommend is you need a reason or you need a plan. If you've got an ebook up for pre-order, but you are pushing sales to it, you're going to have a blog tour. It's part of a series, and you're going to be letting your newsletter of 1,000 know that the next book in the series is coming out, something like that. it makes sense for a pre-order. If you're just putting a pre-order up to do a pre-order and you're not doing anything with it, you actually kind of hurt your algorithms. And so I don't recommend it. Depends on your goals. Do you have a lot of stories in today's world in a nonfiction informative book, or can it be straight up? Sure, I'm afraid I don't quite understand that question. Are there a lot of nonfiction books? Absolutely. Are there books about today that are nonfiction? Absolutely. However, typically it's not just nonfiction informational. Typically it's nonfiction self-help. It's something that combines and kind of crosses genres there, unless it's a textbook. That is different. But typically people want a story to go along with their information. We want to be entertained and educated at the same time. So that is kind of what we see more commonly, is where you've got some switch over. If it's just informational text, nonfiction informational, well, then it's more of a textbook, and that's a harder sell because it's a slower read. That's not something that people typically get on a weekend, cozy up at the lake house and read through. That is something that people will take weeks to kind of read through and take time for. So it depends again on your book, and kind of who your audience is and who you're hoping to reach. Ooh, all right, you guys. I had a lot of emails and we got through all of them. So if you have any follow-up questions, last minute questions, let me know. I think we've got a couple minutes here. I'll make sure I didn't miss. I got like something like 40 emails just this morning, and quite a few of them were for today. So I want to make sure I don't see anything. But if you do have any last minute questions, let me know. Because I will happily do that. And I lost my screen. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions coming in. So if you guys are good, I think we had a great session today. We'll be back next Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, and you are welcome to join us then. If you have questions, if you want to ask them in advance, or like you don't want to forget, just email them in. You can send them to info@newshelves.com. And I just tucked them away in a folder until Friday. So feel free to do that. Feel free to join us live, newshelves.com/FAF. Thank you for being here. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you all next week. Bye-bye.